Now, I've been waiting to talk about this topic with you for all day. Oh my god.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready, bro?
Yeah.
This is at least a page of notes right here. Okay. Okay. So we are talking about what the Amazing Spider-Man would have been and what it would have spiraled into. So this would have now we are about to discuss
Andrew Garfield, Amazing
Andrew
Spider-Man.
Garfield Spider-Man. So we are about to discuss the two movies that would have happened with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and what this would have folded into before the Marvel studio, before Kevin Feige stepped in and restarted with the new Spider-Man. So there was going to be a part 1 and a part 2. The part 1 was going to be called Spider-Man Sinister Six, and the part 2 would have been The Amazing Spider-Man 3. And the Sinister Six movie was going to be labeled as a separate adventure that Spider-Man was on, but it wasn't going to be labeled as The Amazing Spider-Man 3, right? So, comic cuts, this is a lot, so please just listen. All right, here we go. Sony was going to use The Amazing Spider-Man 3 to launch their Sony universe. So it was going to be a Sinister Six led by Norman Osborn. Now, he was supposed to be dead in the Amazing Spider-Man universe, but not exactly, right? Because there was a part, and you probably know this already, that was cut from the film where there was going to be a post-credit scene where this scientist was like walking down, and we saw like the gear for the Sinister Six, and then there was this frozen head telling Norman to wake up, and the one thing that the deleted scene had, bro, was a symbiote in the freaking like glass that was bouncing around, which was yeah, right. And so what was going to happen is and so the Sinister Six was going to be a Peter Parker adventure where we were going to go to Savage Land with dinosaurs and time traveling portals, and Tom Hardy was actually going to be casted as Sandman, and he was in talks to play Sandman in this amazing Spider-Man story. Obviously he ended up becoming, Venom, but yeah. So now for The Amazing Spider-Man 3, it would have opened with Peter still mourning for Gwen Stacy. Then the symbiote attaches to Peter and he loses it over Gwen's death. And the movie would end with the symbiote leaving Peter and then going to Eddie Brock, setting up the standalone Venom movie where he was going against Carnage right off of the rip. Okay, now that was one idea. Now I'm going to give multiple ideas that they were kind of shoot around, but anyways, they even talked about not doing Eddie Brock, and they even thought about Flash getting the symbiote instead of like the Eddie Brock becoming Venom. And they even had a idea that Peter had a formula where he can regenerate people that died, and basically he was going to bring back Captain Stacy and Gwen. And they said that when he brought back Gwen was going to be the one to turn into Carnage, and it will force Andrew Garfield Spider-Man to kill her, but he would actually get to properly say goodbye. Now, let's talk about Mary Jane, because obviously in TASM there was no freaking Mary Jane. So there was a Mary Jane, and it was Shailene Woodley. And if you don't know who she was the main character in the Divergent films. Now, she had Mary Jane roles in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, bro, and they were cut. There were actually 4 scenes, and I saw the photos. Her hair was dyed red and everything. I think she was probably the best comic accurate MJ that we saw from those cut photos of them. So it was rumored that MJ was going to meet Peter at group counseling when he was trying to get over Gwen, and they were going to start to grow their relationship from there. And then they were also going to, and this is the part that I hate, they were going to add on to Peter Parker's dad returning, and there was going to like be a part where Peter basically saw that his dad wasn't actually running, that he was just as corrupt as Norman Osborn and all them, which I think would have been dumb. Like, why would you even bring his dad in this? Anyways, and The Amazing Spider-Man 3 would have also kicked off Black Cat into her own standalone film. Also, having a Aunt May spinoff that would have been like Peggy Carter's spinoff show, which
where she was going to be like this spy that she used to be a spy, and Sony literally dropped that because they were like, "What the hell?" And they even talked about after Andrew Garfield was done being Spider-Man, they were going to have Andrew Garfield Spider-Man mentor Miles Morales, but instead they ended up going with the Spider-Verse films, which was the best decision, obviously. Now, Sony folded on these plans because the Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't get the reception that they wanted. Now, after TASM 2, they were going to do a prequel to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with a Craven story getting Gwen and Peter Parker in high school, because Sony was pissed off because the reason why they chose Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone was because they wanted them to do a bunch of high school stories. And so they were kind of upset when Mark Webb, made them graduate out of high school. So, and they were going to do this so they could bring back Norman Osborn and others to be in the story. And they were also going to put Green Goblin in this story, obviously, because Norman Osborn's there. Then, after this, they were going to do a Spider-Man 2099 spin-off film playing him, and Spider-Man 2099 was going to be the Captain America of the Sony Marvel universe, because he would have been in 2099 and he would have got sent to the present day New York City. And then we would have gotten the Venom film, and in the Venom movie, he would have lost to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and with those end credits setting up Carnage, then we would have gotten the Black Cat movie where Black Cat and Spider-Man are going up against Kingpin, and these films would add to this Spider-Man, Black Cat, and Venom, and Spider-Man 2099 all fighting against Carnage and Kingpin. And Feige said, and so Feige saw all these, and Feige said he did not like Garfield's Spider-Man. He said that Andrew Garfield and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was too emotional, and it downplayed how he reacted to Gwen's death. And Kevin Feige said he also felt like the lore with his dad also destroyed Peter Parker being a normal kid from Queens that gets his powers and becomes a random superhero.
So, wow. First
I
of all,
know it's a lot.
taken.
I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to
Number
dump all this on you.
one, I will say, I think that what fans have been missing from Spider-Man in the MCU isn't necessarily that Spider-Man hasn't been grounded. I think more specifically, what fans have been missing is that we just want to see Spider-Man in his New York City mythos rather than these larger than life MCU spectacle events. And I think that, the closest thing we had to that was Homecoming, and then it was followed up by Spider-Man in Europe, and he was barely in the Spider-Man suit. Like that movie really pisses me off. And I like Homecoming and I like No Way Home, but like I never watch Far From Home ever. Anyway, it's a lot. And as good as a lot of it sounds like Kevin Feige did the right thing, because if they were considering bringing Andrew Parker, Peter's father, back into the mix, that just says that they were not going to be respectful to the lore. And if you're not going to be respectful to the lore of Spider-Man, you don't have any business making Spider-Man movies. Point blank. And it's funny because when you brought this up, I was thinking like maybe the answer is, they like Feige let Sony make Spider-Man movies and they make MCU Spider-Man movies, and you kill two birds with one stone. Fans get their New York City mythos Spider-Man movies, and we also get the MCU movies, and everyone gets to make their money, and the contract stays in a happy place. But, listen, a lot of that sounds really good. Like, I would love to see a Sinister Six movie. I don't like Peter meeting MJ at group therapy. Like, Spider-Man, that's not Spider-Man. I don't even know if that's MJ. And yeah, the rest of it sounds pretty good. But like, again, if you're considering bringing Peter Parker's dad back, like, you don't understand Spider-Man. And I mean, I like, if they're gonna bring him back, you can't have him be there happily, but like, you don't bring him back. And they like, I loved what they did in Batman's mythos, where they didn't bring Batman's dad back, Thomas Wayne. They made him Batman in a separate universe, and Flash got to bring a letter. That was it. You don't have them meet. But like, yeah, a lot of it's good. The symbiote piece with, Peter, becoming attached to the symbiote because he was going through the grief of losing Gwen Stacy is great.
Yeah.
And that captures like the symbiote perfectly. But also, by the way, hold up. Tom Hardy, Sandman, who in their right mind came up with that? That is such a bad idea and such a wasted actor. It sounds like there were a lot of talented people that put these plans together, and there were a lot of morons in the room at the same time.
It's like, and Hungry Almighty said this. This is how I felt. One half I'm cool with, the other half is like, what the frick, bro? Like that's how I felt.
Yeah,
because I like the idea of Black Cat and Spider-Man teaming up, Venom losing to Spider-Man, but it's not like a TASM 3 movie, it's a Venom movie. Because that's what me and you said that we wanted, like, originally. You know what I mean? Like, you can still make these movies, just have Spider-Man win,
Right.
I even like the idea of Spider-Man 2099 getting pushed to the modern day New York City. I like all that, but it seemed like they wanted, as I said before, they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. Like, why would you go back and do a prequel with them in high school? Like, you just shouldn't have killed off Norman Osborn in the beginning.
Yeah. And I kind of still do like the idea of Sony making Spider-Man movies while the MCU makes the larger than life stuff. But the problem is Kevin Feige, if Sony's going to say contractually, I had my fantasy and I was the decision maker on behalf of all parties, I still, if I were Kevin Feige and I'm allowing Sony to make the Spider-Man movies and they get to make the money on them while we at the MCU make our Spider-Man movies and we get the money on those, you can't then ask Kevin who's going to read the scripts and approve everything. Kevin Feige, not if he's not getting paid. And, someone has to be at the like creative level who has the authority to say this could fly and this can't fly, and then that person's got to get paid too. And I'm sure they could probably work that out with someone,